Spotted a snake? That's not a problem. Is it moving towards you? Not a problem. You got nowhere to run? Not a problem. But if the snake has eyes like this is a problem. Get a cat, they said. It'd be fun, they said. Cats are cool and all that. No, everything is fine, but this shedding, it hurts not only people, but also the animals themselves. Snakes, to grow, they need to discard their old skin, and this is much more difficult than you think, and often their eyes are in danger. If you Google this, the internet will gladly tell you that all snakes have cloudy eyes when shedding, but few people know the real reason for that. Near the eyes, just like anywhere on their body, snakes have skin that dies and sloughs off, creating the effect of cloudy eyes. Usually, these areas of skin serve to protect the eyes from dirt and dry environment, and sometimes they just get stuck during shedding. If you've ever worn contact lenses smudged with a fingerprint, then you understand what the snake is feeling at this moment. It essentially loses the ability to see, but this could make it even more aggressive. Yes, other senses are intact, but you must admit, when you're a snake, it's safer to attack first and then find out what was the target, just to be safe. I don't see who you are, but I will find you and I will bite you. Any snake in any conditions can experience shedding issues, even in a cozy terrarium where it gets all the care it needs. Though here, of course, the animal is more likely to get help. Snake owners are advised to increase the humidity, and if this doesn't work, they can carefully help the pet to get rid of the unnecessary skin. It's best to take the snake to the vet, of course. Especially trained people are definitely better at handling this, and in the wildlife, well, there aren't many options. To shed their skin, snakes rub against all sorts of rough surfaces like bark or stones, and usually that's all they can do. There are no emergency departments in the animal kingdom, though animals may really need help. Sometimes, some of the old skin remains near the snake's tail and doesn't come off even after several shedding periods. Imagine wearing very tight socks, then putting another one on top, and then one more. In the end, their upper part will squeeze your leg so much it'll restrict the blood flow. Same thing happens with snakes that can't get rid of their old skin. After all, if you do nothing about it, the tail will have to be amputated. And there are still no vet clinics in the wild. As I mentioned, most of the shedding-related issues seem to be caused by common dry skin. In this regard, people should understand snakes perfectly. If you live in a cold climate and use heaters, you probably have noticed they make your skin very dry. Sometimes it gets so dry it cracks, hurts, even bleeds, and peels like hell. Actually, this is also shedding, although a bit forced. There's actually a spot full of human skin. Come on, I'll show you. Get it out, Steve. Ready? Yes, most of the dust in our apartments is made of human skin. For a long time, this was shock content on the internet, then they began to call it a myth. But Derek Mueller, PhD in physics and math, claims that our skin can be considered dust, at least if we judge by how long it can stay in the air. There are quite complex measurements and comparisons involved. In short, let's just accept it as fact. We're covered in dust. Everything around us is covered with our skin. I don't know which statement sounds more alarming. A person with an average skin surface area loses 1,000 skin cells every hour. No wonder house dust is mostly made up of it. By the way, if two people slept on a mattress for a decade and shed all the extra skin into it, it'd gain about 7 pounds. For those who don't get any sleep tonight because of that, sorry guys. It's not my fault, it was written in the script. Okay, back to the shedding. So snakes have problems caused by dry air, but they're not the only ones who can get stuck in their own shell, so to say. Just imagine lobsters face the same problem. Lobsters? They live in water, damn it! What dryness are we talking about? Lobsters have another problem. They keep growing their entire life. Neither humans, nor frogs, nor lions do this. We reach a certain threshold and stop. Lobsters grow until they die of natural causes or get killed. They grow larger with every shedding. Yes, it happens very often. The average lobster can molt 44 times before it's a year old, and only then does it gradually slow down. Even when it happens that often, molting remains a stressful process, if only because the creature without a hard shell and strong pinchers becomes a vulnerable prey for a predator, though this is the least of their problems. As the lobsters grow in size, each molting requires more and more energy than the one before. At some point, they run out of strength and begin to shed too rarely. And then various bacterial infections get into their worn and torn shells. There, bacteria cause scars, adhering the lobsters to their exoskeleton. You see the problem? To survive, a lobster needs to get out of its shell, but it physically can't do it. The result is predictable. When trying to molt, the lobster simply gets stuck and dies. In extreme cases, the entire carapace can rot, killing the animal inside. Ugh, I don't even want to imagine that terrible kind of death. Spiders have similar problems. After molting, they are also too vulnerable and they can get stuck so tightly they simply suffocate. And this risk stays with spiders throughout their entire life. Apparently, the grasshoppers looked at that and decided, to hell with that. Changing the exoskeleton is of course cool and very convenient, but let it happen only at the stage of the nymph. I guess you can call it the teen years when the insect has no wings yet. With the help of hormones, the grasshopper stops growing, then gets a new exoskeleton inside the old one. And when it comes time to change the shell, it gulps some air and blows. This rips apart the old exoskeleton, and the grasshopper breaks free all fresh and new. Actually, there's something quite logical in changing the shell at the beginning of life. Many animals grow especially fast during this period. Just look at people. Humans grow 7 sizes in their first 2 years of life. For parents, this is a real problem and a very large expense item because people don't know how to grow new clothes around themselves like lobsters. But that's okay because we already invented clothes that grow together with the child. These clothes look something like this. In fact, the creators of Petite Plie just cleverly folded the fabric to create pleats. As the kid grows, the pleats expand and the clothes together with them. Listen, I just realized what this reminded me of. And everyone hated the armor of the Nilfgaardian soldiers in the first season of The Witcher. The poor fellows were just given clothes to grow into. Since we're talking about people, let's see what our ancestors have done with the animals. Wild relatives of sheep, such as the desert bighorn sheep, grow and then lose some of their wool each year. Like snakes, they rub against everything and shed the excess wool. A typical scheme that works. Things are quite different when it comes to the merino. These sheep were bred by people in order to get as much wool as possible. They actually achieved their goal, but as it usually happens, they didn't consider one small detail. Without the help of a human, merino sheep can simply die. Their hair just keeps on growing, transforming the sheep into giant hairy freaks. Imagine putting on 5 heavy jackets and then adding new ones from time to time. Merino sheep feel about the same. They're hot, can hardly move around, and generally feel burdened. All of this can ultimately lead to death. Well, thanks, humanity. By the way, dogs have the same problem. I think it's not a secret for anyone that to some extent, all dogs are related to wolves. According to Casey Thiessen, director of pet care issues at the Humane Society of the United States, no dog, not even the toughest Arctic sled dog, is meant to spend much time in the cold. A thick coat doesn't protect all the parts of a dog's body. Their ears and paws freeze. In short, it's hard for them. Meanwhile, the wolf's coat provides them with perfect protection from the cold. They can withstand temperatures down to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and feel great. So we broke them when we domesticated them? The same way we broke sheep? Well, looks like that. However, wolves don't wear a huge fur coat all the time. They also shed. Actually, seems like almost everybody does, both vertebrates and invertebrates. Even tardigrades. You know these guys, almost microscopic animals that resemble that caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland, only without bad habits and with the ability to survive in almost any conditions. Usually tardigrades don't grow more than 0.04 inches long, and their bodies, on average, consist of only 1,000 cells. By comparison, there are many trillions of cells in the human body. Despite this size, tardigrades still molt. Even trees molt. I'm not talking about falling leaves. It'd be too simple and trite. The sycamore trees went one step further. They shed bark. The bark of sycamore trees simply peels off, gradually exposing the tree and at the same time giving it camouflage. Moreover, you already know the reason for molting. This is how the sycamore grows, and if it loses its bark, then everything is going fine. Sometimes the shedding intensifies due to hot weather, as if the sycamore tree wants to undress as soon as possible. Yes, we're still talking about trees. I can't. That's embarrassing. We're sycamore trees. Well, I don't know. On a nude beach! Well, if you think shedding seems like overkill, you simply don't know what spiny mice are capable of. I think they lose some of their fur like any other animal, but they don't stop there. To hell with half measures. If a predator catches a spiny mouse, it discards everything. Fur, skin, sweat glands, even cartilage if necessary. That is, it simply leaves a piece of itself to the predator as a keepsake and then runs away. And yes, that's not molting as we know it, but it definitely goes too far. See you later.